This is VSiN's College Football Betting Podcast.
Welcome in another edition of the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast alongside Matt Youmans at Matt Youmans 247 on Twitter. I am Tim Murray. Week number 7 of the college football season. Matt, the unofficial midway point of the college football season. And we got ourselves a pretty good card. A lot of late night action. A Hawaii game at 11 p.m. Eastern, which you know Matt will be playing. And the Pac-12, it starts really this weekend. I guess you could say it started last weekend. Both you and I were on UCLA in that spot against Wazoo. The cannibalization, maybe, of the conference started last weekend. And let's jump right into it. Week number 7, we've got number 8 Oregon against number 7 Washington. 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 local kick up there in Seattle, Washington. And this has been an interesting game just looking at the point spread, Matt, because it has moved a little bit. It is 3 across the board as we record this right now. On Thursday morning, a 2.5 showed up as some Oregon money came in and scooped right up back to Washington. So it looks like dog money coming in a little bit at +3. Favorite money certainly coming in when it touches 2.5. A total of 67.5 at DraftKings. Matt, you have a play on this game. How do you see Saturday in Seattle playing out?
Well, it's game of the week, and hopefully it plays out with the Huskies winning. I think right now, Tim, you talked about getting close to the midpoint of the season. Is there a team in college football that's looked better than Washington? I don't think so.
I don't think so, yeah.
You know, I don't think Michigan's looked better. I don't think Georgia's looked better. Michael Penix also has looked like the best quarterback in the country. 74.7% completions, 399 yards per game, 16 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's only been sacked 3 times all season. He's got 2 of the best wide receivers in the country. I trust Michael Penix a little bit more than I do Oregon quarterback Bo Nix on the road. And Kalen DeBoer has become one of my favorite coaches in the last 3 years. I wish this were a night game in Seattle. I think it should be a night game. You get much higher TV ratings. I don't know why it's in the middle of the afternoon. But, hey, I still think it's a strong home field, and the Huskies are the better team with the better quarterback. I laid 2.5 here with Washington. For the official play, it's going to be Washington -3 because I think all of the 2.5s have disappeared. You could also lay the money line price if you don't want to lay a full 3. That's always an option that I use sometimes in games like this. But, Tim, we have such a high total of around 68 that you think we're going to have a shootout, and I think that's going to be the case. Now, on paper, the Oregon defense looks a little bit better. But look at the Ducks' resume, too. Aside from the trip to Lubbock to play Texas Tech, when Oregon allowed – yeah, I hate to bring up this game. But in that game, Oregon allowed 30 points to Texas Tech, and it probably should have been more.
Tyler Shuck was turning the ball over left and right. He was moving the ball on him for sure.
You can talk about how impressive the Oregon defense looks on paper, but they played a lot of weak offenses, and in one road game against Texas Tech, gave up a bunch of points and should have allowed more. So I liked Washington here. This is going to be, I think, a playoff team. The Huskies have a big game at USC on November 4th, and you know, I think you used the word cannibalize, and that's what the Pac-12's top teams are going to do. But I still think the Pac-12 is going to get 1, maybe 2 teams into the playoffs and deserves probably to get 2. Let's see how this one plays out. If Washington wins, I think the Huskies are going to have the inside track to a first playoff spot.
Michael Penix Jr. right now sitting at +250 at Circa to win the Heisman Trophy. Bo Nix sitting at 7-1. Now, you're on Washington, so we're not hoping this comes home. But if someone out there likes the Ducks, would you say take a look at Bo Nix to win the Heisman Trophy? Because those odds, will probably be cut in half if they do pull out the upset in Washington.
Yeah, well, I would say this. If you like Bo Nix to win the Heisman, you probably should have bet it a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, you're not getting a bargain on some of these Heisman odds. And, Tim, you get a lot of overreactions, even in the betting market. We still have a long way to go in the college football season and in the Heisman race. Don't be betting +250 and thinking that Penix is going to win this thing this weekend.
If I remember correctly, it was, I'm going to forget.
Or Nix.
Yeah. Leonard Fournette was the odds-on favorite middle of October. He went to Alabama. He got held to like 18 yards. He didn't even get invited to New York. So you're absolutely right. A lot of things can unfold here when it comes to the Heisman market. One little note I want to point out here regarding this game. I saw Todd Furman point this out on Twitter, that these are the two best teams in the country when it comes to yards per play net. Basically, defense subtracted from your offense. Washington averaging 3.7 net yards per play. Oregon averaging 3.6 net yards per play. I'm with you. I think this will be a phenomenal game. I don't have a play on this game. I'm going to sit back and watch. Last thought on this one, Matt. Do you think with a high total, now we're a pre-flop gambling podcast, and it drives me crazy when I hear analysts, well, I'm just going to bet this one in-game. Well, when you have a high total in this game, the realistic possibility that this game could swing a little bit, do you think this will potentially be a quality in-game opportunity type of game where you could maybe get both sides with a plus sign?
I'm surprised the sportsbooks continue to run and offer an in-game product, too, because everybody who talks about betting in-game always wins. They always get a great number, and they always win. So do the books... The books must get crushed on in-game betting, right?
Well, I saw the lights here flicker a little bit, so they have been getting beat up pretty good.
In a game like this, I do think, hey, if Washington jumps out 14-0 or vice versa, Oregon jumps out, take the points with the dog because this game's going to be far from over. You recall last year, UCLA jumped on top of USC 14-0. In the game, I believe it was at the Rose Bowl when those teams played last year. What happened? That 14-0 lead disappeared quickly, and USC came back and won the game. So I do think if you get a situation like that, those are good live betting opportunities.
Well, you look at last week, not that it was easy because USC needed 3 overtimes, but they were down 17-0 to Arizona. But Matt gave out Arizona plus the 21.5, and that was a sit-back rocking chair type of cover. All right, speaking of those dirty Trojans from Los Angeles, they head to South Bend, Indiana, the Battle of the Jeweled Shillelagh. Notre Dame has actually won 5 in a row in South Bend against the Trojans. USC number 10, Notre Dame number 21 after losing last week to Louisville. 7:30 Eastern, this game on NBC. If you like the dog, there is still a 3 out there. If you like the favorite in Notre Dame, there's a 2.5 out there. What's interesting to note, Matt, because I've gotten a couple texts from people who are not in the gambling industry. How is Notre Dame the favorite in this game?
Really?
Last week before the Louisville game, DraftKings put out a look-ahead line. Notre Dame -2. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame loses. Notre Dame -2.5, 3, kind of hung out there all week. Total has started to move down. Weather could be a factor. Winds in the 15 to 20 mile an hour range. Rain going to be in the temps in the upper to mid 40s. How do you look at this one, Max? I know you have a play on this one as well.
I do. And to answer your question, how's Notre Dame the favorite? Because a lot of odds makers and handicappers don't have USC rated that highly, and the main reason is the defense. USC defense has allowed 110 points in the last 3 games to Arizona State, Colorado, and Arizona. That's a problem. Last week, Arizona started backup quarterback Noah Fifita. It was his second career start. The kid's like 5'8", and Arizona put up 28 first downs, a 506 to 365 total yardage, 35.5 minutes time of possession. Fifita, 25 for 35, 303 yards, 5 touchdowns, only 1 pick. He was rarely pressured. Arizona had 203 rushing yards. That's a problem, Tim. And Notre Dame's going to be able to run the ball. Hopefully the Irish offensive line plays much better this week than it did last week.
No more rotating guards, please. Just throwing that out there.
This is not Noah Fifita. This is Sam Hartman trying to bounce back from a bad game. Notre Dame, I think, a lot of people are concerned about the Irish schedule, and that's warranted. We'll find out maybe Saturday night this team's out of gas. I don't think so. I think the Irish are going to come back strong here. The week they were out of gas was last week at Louisville. They had played the Ohio State game and went down to basically the last second. Same thing at Duke the second week. And then you face big game Jeff Brom on the road in that electric atmosphere at Louisville. That was the Super Bowl for the Cardinals. And, I'm not surprised, really, that Notre Dame got beaten that game. I thought Louisville played much better than I expected to. So it was a combination of factors. But this week, I think the USC defense, which has been begging to get this team beat, finally gets exposed in a game on the road where Caleb Williams can't make up for the shortcomings. I like the Irish here. Lay the money line minus 135 or minus 2.5.
You know, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of heat out there, a lot of skepticism on not only Marcus Freeman, the decision to hire Jared Parker, them being completely outcoached in Louisville on Saturday night. And you mentioned it. Sam Hartman, as well as he had played through the first, let's call it 5.5 games, Duke was up and down, but he made the heroic play. He was bad. I mean, there's no way around it. He turned the ball over 5 times. They were making mistakes. So
he was bad, but the offensive line was worse.
Offensive line was horrible. They had no semblance of a run game, and the wide receivers weren't able to get separation. So this is kind of I don't want to say backs against the wall. Marcus Freeman's not getting fired, but this is the type of game where you always hear it said, you can't fake desperation. There's going to be a big difference feel in South Bend if they're 6-2 going into the bye week as opposed to 5-3 losing 2 straight going into the bye week. So we'll see what Notre Dame's made of here.
Tim, this is a huge game for the future of Fighting Irish football. And if they lose this week, if they don't win this, you might as well book your ticket to the Independence Bowl, Tim.
I said ReliaQuest Bowl. I think that's more realistic there. Formerly the Outback Bowl. All right. We head to Corvallis when we come back. The Beavs and the Bruins. It's VSiN College Football Betting Podcast.
This is VSiN's College Football Betting Podcast.
Keep it rolling alongside Matt Youmans. I'm Tim Murray. It is the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast, Week 7 of the college football season already underway. We've got midweek football. It's glorious to have that back in our lives. The early week podcast with Adam Burke on Monday nights. We will take a look at all of the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday games if we see fit, and we have a game on a Friday that we've liked. Two weeks ago, we had some Friday action. We will certainly hit that on this podcast, but we just hit on Notre Dame USC. That is a primetime game in South Bend. Primetime, Corvallis, Oregon, 18th ranked UCLA, and number 15 Oregon State, 8 o'clock Eastern on Fox. And since 2021, Matt, the Beavs 15-1 straight up in Corvallis. They have obviously been very successful. The lone loss was actually a cover last year in September against USC and Caleb Williams. I think they were a 6-point dog. Really should have won that game outright. Should be a great atmosphere there in Corvallis. Or UCLA coming off of a big win that you and I both liked last week. The defense was spectacular. Dante Moore looked like a freshman. Made some mistakes, threw a big pick 6 right before the half. And anyone who had UCLA minus, 2.5 first half money line, that was a rough way to go about. But ultimately, UCLA won that game, ran the ball incredibly well. I've got to play on this game, Matt. Anything that you see in this UCLA-Oregon State game as the Beavs are a 3.5-point favorite as the total has trickled down just a little bit down to 54.
Yeah, Tim, I want to say this about UCLA. Before last week's game, I only had about 20 gray hairs on my head. And after that game, I had about 220. So I had to get out to Just for Men this week to color it because I think that game aged me about 5 years. And that was just the first half. How about UCLA last week? Missing a field goal, getting one blocked. Also, Dante Moore right before the half with the 90-yard pick 6. Bruins did everything possible to lose that game. And still came back and won and covered and won that 25-17. But you just mentioned it. Now they're going on the road to face an Oregon State team that's been money at home. Actually, Beavers probably should have beat USC in that game a year ago. What'd you say the trend is? 15-1?
15-1 straight up, yep.
Wow, that's impressive. And, now you got a full stadium, too. Packed house, better atmosphere. I the one thing I do like about this UCLA defense, I talked about it last week, this is the best D that Chip Kelly's had since he's been at UCLA. And you saw that last week against Cam Ward and the Washington State offense, right? So I lean Oregon State here, but I don't want to lay the number, let's put it that way. And I'm going to pass for now, but this is definitely a game I'll be interested, as you like to say, in live betting when it gets, because I do think the Beavers are going to find a way to win this game, but you're not getting a bargain at this number.
So the reason I'm laughing, for those of you watching with us, I had to go back and look at our text messages. A lot of them not willing to be said on the air from both parties. Both parties a little upset. Matt may or may not have said, "I hate college football" on Saturday watching this game. I said, this bleeping UCLA game, they should have been up 17, but they got there. Good job, Bruins. You got there. But you said it. I love this UCLA defense. It's really impressive. Carson Steele, Kent State transfer. He's an absolute beast. 30 carries, 141 yards for the Bruins. But are they going to be able to run the ball regularly with success against this Beavs team? And on the flip side, you and I both had Cal late last Saturday night, and there were some more texts regarding Cal's game and Justin Wilcox, the defensive wizard. Oregon State was able to put up 499 yards of offense.
Is that all?
But
I thought it was like 1,000.
But they gave up 448.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's going to happen this week. I think this is an uglier game, similar, I don't want to say really comparable to what we saw, 2 Fridays ago when Oregon State beat Utah 21-7. But I think this is ugly. You look at Oregon State is one of the slower teams in the country, averaging just 67 plays per game, which is like 60-70th. UCLA does want to get up and go, 76 plays per game. But I think ultimately you've got a freshman quarterback on the road, good defense in UCLA, solid defense in Oregon State, questions about a right tackle who went down with an injury for Oregon State. That just leads me more to the under. DJ Uiagalelei playing his best game maybe of his college career. Mm-hmm. I will take the under 54. It's been on the move a little bit this week, but 54 is still readily available. So I will go under 54 here in UCLA, Oregon State.
Well, you think about when USC went up to Oregon State last year, a high-powered USC offense, and the Trojans won that game 17-14.
Yep.
Right? So that type of thing could happen. Last thing, and I'm not making light of a bad situation, but Tim, a week ago, I had to attend a funeral on Saturday afternoon. And I was staying in the back talking to somebody, and he goes, "What's wrong, man? Something seems wrong." I said, "Yeah, this UCLA game is just driving me crazy." It didn't have anything to do with the funeral. The UCLA game was that was so ridiculous what was happening in that. And when you bet a side and you like a side all week, and I liked UCLA last week a lot. And then when everything starts to go wrong, it just it can push you to the edge sometimes. Let's put it that. I'm just very happy that the Bruins came back and found a way to cover that game because it made my whole weekend a little bit better. Let's put it that way. I was in such a bad mood during that UCLA game. I need to stay away from this UCLA game this week.
I had to go and get a free trial of Fubo TV so I could watch the damn game on the Pac-12 network. Speaking of random places to watch football games.
Is that what you did?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I watched it. I had to. Watching it on Game Tracker was putting taking years off my life. Speaking of random places to watch games, while you're watching reruns of Seventh Heaven and Gossip Girl at 6:30 Eastern on the CW is where you could find Louisville at Pitt. Number 14 Louisville coming off of, as Matt already said in the podcast, the Super Bowl down there. Biggest crowd in school history. Jack Harlow down on the sidelines, rushing the field with the fans after the game.
I don't like that guy.
I don't like him either because he was a Louisville fan. This is, if there is not more of a Nard Dog game, Pat Narduzzi, than this one, I don't know what is. Pittsburgh stinks this year. They have been bad pretty much every which way. Pat Narduzzi said they put on the pads during the bye week. They're coming off a bye. This historically has been a spot where Pittsburgh finds ways to either get a cover or an outright win. Pat Narduzzi in 2016 with a below 500 Pitt team went to Clemson, number 2 in the country, won 43-42. 2017, wrapped up the regular season, beating number 2 Miami, 24-14. 2018, they went to South Bend as a 21-point dog, lost 19-14. And then 2019, they ended UCF's 25-game regular season winning streak as a 10-point dog, 35-34. As I mentioned, Matt, the defense stinks, missed 26 tackles against Virginia Tech. They've lost 4 in a row. They've made a change at quarterback in Christian Vuluix, the Penn State transfer. Give me Penn State. Give me Pitt. This was the spot. If it wants to be Penn State too, I don't care. Just cover the damn 7.5 against Louisville.
I'd prefer Penn State change uniforms with Pitt to be a better play. No question about it. But, if you go back to that Pitt-Penn State game, that's where I started to think that this, Pitt, actually, that was West Virginia, Penn State, where I started to think this West Virginia team's actually pretty good. And the Mountaineers have run off 4 wins in a row. And I like Pitt this week as a ugly dog that's lost 4 games in a row. The Panthers have kind of fallen apart here for Pat Narduzzi, but they're still going to show up defensively, even after losing 4 straight. You know that. I think, is it Christian Vulu?
Vulu, I believe.
I don't know. I'm guessing.
That's Veilleux.
You don't know how to pronounce his name now, but you will by Saturday afternoon. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. But he's 12 for 27 on the year. When I looked up his stats, I was like, I don't know if I should be making this Pitt play. I'm going to make it. Phil Jurkovec has been benched, 164 passing yards per game. I think the change at quarterback is just going to also kind of help the change in the attitude of this football team. And when I look at the Louisville offense, I think some of the numbers are inflated against weaker defenses. And we saw the Cardinals on the road against NC State 2 weeks ago, struggled to put up 13 points and win that game by 3. Jack Plummer has not been playing lights out at quarterback for the Cardinals. Hey, look, this is just an angle I feel like you have to play. When the Cardinals are off their Super Bowl win, they go on the road to face an opponent that's probably not going to get their attention. You're right. It's big game Jeff Brom. He doesn't necessarily get the team up for the lesser games.
2018, Purdue beats Ohio State 49-20. What happened the following week?
Lost.
Road trip to Michigan State. Purdue lost 23-13 after winning 49-20 over Purdue. Come on, Pitt. Don't let us down. HTP. Hail to Pitt.
This is VSiN's College Football Betting Podcast.
We keep it rolling here on the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast. We just talked about a little history. 2018, Ohio State, the Buckeyes, number 2 in the country, went to West Lafayette, and Purdue and Jeff Brom took care of business 49-20. Well, Ohio State, number 3 in the country again, and guess where they're headed? West Lafayette. Now, Jeff Brom's no longer there, but you know who's still there? That big drum. That's still there, Matt. And maybe a little, look ahead. We got Penn State waiting in the wings next week as they come to Columbus for what will be an enormous showdown in the Big Ten. Ohio State is a 19.5-point favorite, Matt, against the Purdue Boilermakers. Noon on Peacock. Could I interest you in the dog?
Well, I have to admit that I signed up for Peacock this week because I'm tired of all these good Big Ten games being put on that channel, and I don't have it. So I signed up. I finally
go watch reruns of The Office, too, while you're at it.
Yeah, I could care less about that show. I don't watch TV shows, Tim. I watch football, college football, NFL. But anyway, Purdue's got some pretty good skill position talent. Hudson Card, the transfer quarterback from Texas, has to stop turning the ball over. That's going to be a big problem in this game. If Purdue turns it over like it has in the first half of the season, this game could get away. But look at the running backs. Tyrone Tracy, Devin Mockabee, Deion Burks at wide receiver. Got some good tight ends. Purdue's got plenty of skill position talent. Jeff Brom didn't leave the cupboard bare on that side of the ball. The defense, It's shown some flashes of being competent. Last week, Purdue lost 20-14 at Iowa and gave up one big play on the ground that really flipped the game. But I think when you handicap this, it's mostly about Ohio State. What I talked about prior to the Notre Dame game, Ohio State is a vastly overrated football team. And I think a lot of people are starting to figure that out now. I've felt this way for a long time. Notre Dame should beat Ohio State, let the Buckeyes off the hook. At some point, somebody's going to get the Buckeyes. I don't think it's going to be Purdue here as a 19.5-point dog. I was trying to grab 20 on this game. I thought maybe you get bet up. I could grab a better number with Purdue. I'll take 19.5 if I have to here. But Buckeyes have Penn State on deck, and that's a big thing working in Purdue's favor here too, Tim, is that, Penn State is playing UMass, and Ohio State's got to go on the road to play Purdue. I think the Buckeyes, both those teams are going to be peeking ahead a little bit the next week's game. DraftKings, Matt Gurley at DraftKings opened Ohio State a 5-point favorite against Penn State and Columbus next week. Monster game on the Big Ten schedule. Don't sleep on the Boilermakers here. I think the dog should be able to get inside this number. Stay inside this number. I'll take the points with Purdue.
You said it last week, and you called your shot. Thankfully, you didn't bet Maryland, because you said on this podcast, I'm paraphrasing, I hate when I bet against Ohio State because they always find a way to cover at the end of the game. And Maryland led 10-0 against Ohio State and ultimately lost 37-17, covering the closing number. I am not officially with you, but I think I'll ultimately get to the window on the Boilermakers. Classic look-ahead spot on the road, noon kick. What's
interesting, too, you have to, a big part of being a handicapper and kind of learning things, you have to read the betting markets and read the screen. I have not seen this game hit 20 all week, which surprises me because that shows you there's some sharp money resistance out there supporting the underdog in the game.
There's no doubt about it. And you've seen the hooks on 19. Not that 19's a key number, but 19.5s have gone down to 19 as opposed to go up to 20. All-time coaching meltdown last Saturday night in Coral Gables. Jed Fish actually wrote a thank you note to Mario Cristobal because no one cared that he didn't go for 2.
I cared.
At the end of overtime. Yes, he should have gone for 2. No one cared that Marcus Freeman was changing guards in and out of the lineup. Well, no, I cared. But Mario Cristobal, for some inexplicable reason, decided to run the ball when Georgia Tech had no timeouts to go. They fumble, Georgia Tech goes down and scores a touchdown. And now Miami has to get up off the mat, go on the road to take on North Carolina, a North Carolina team that seems to be maybe hitting their stride. You look at Drake May playing incredibly well last week, Matt, in their victory against Syracuse. Tez Walker is back. He had 6 catches, getting his feet wet there. Give me the Canes.
Yeah.
This might be I will hate myself bowl, but I do like the talent that's on this Miami roster. I don't trust the coaches as far as I could throw them, but there's a 4 out there. I'm going to take the Canes in this spot. What we saw from this Miami team against Texas A&M, as we know, Texas A&M, pretty flawed secondary, but I love the athletes on Miami. Now, I think North Carolina's got the better quarterback in Drake May playing at an elite level, but all in all, I think Miami has the talent edge here over North Carolina. Coaching, it's a bit of a toss-up. I mean, Mac Brown, he's not a saint. He's going to make some mistakes as well. So I'm going to take the 4 here with the Canes in what feels like an all-time nobody wants to bet Miami spot. So I'll take the 4, and hopefully the gifts of the offensive lineman saying, what the hell is going on? And he used a different adjective than hell. But I'm going to take the Canes here in this spot against UNC, plus the 4.
Where can people find you on Twitter?
At 1 Tim Murray.
All right, follow him because when Miami falls behind in this game, he's going to be entertaining on Twitter Saturday afternoon. What the hell was I thinking taking Miami?
This is true.
Actually, I tend to agree with you here. I'm not sure I'm going to bet on Miami, but I've been looking that way this week. Not sure if I'm going to do anything with the game. Mario Cristobal, he's been one of my least favorite coaches for a long time. I've said this before. the smartest people in the world are going to make a dumb mistake. But if it's a pattern, if you make a bunch of dumb mistakes, then that means you're not that smart. And that's Mario Cristobal. And he's done this over and over again. He didn't learn, Tim, from the Oregon-Stanford game
yeah.
and from various other mistakes he's made in game management. And to do that last week against Georgia Tech is inexcusable. And, he didn't even really apologize for it. Just, we probably should have taken a knee. Yeah, you think so? I just love the fact that Georgia Tech made two awesome plays and karma made him pay for that monstrous mistake. How great were the two plays that Georgia Tech made to win the game? It's one of my favorite moments in college football history. That was better than the Doug Flutie game. It was.
As the wide receivers just streaking untouched, but the safety's creeping up. He slides into the end zone. How does
the receiver get behind the defense in that situation? You can't make that stuff up. That is one of my favorite games of all time, how that Georgia Tech-Miami game
It would have
finished.
been. I would have loved it more if I had gotten to the window, but once it got off 21, I was like, I missed the good number. That was a mistake by me. All right, let's jump back to the Big Ten. Let's get a play from you real quick before we hit another break. You love Wisconsin preseason. Seems like the Badgers maybe starting to figure things out. They are a 9.5 point favorite against Iowa with a comically low total of 34.
This is great.
It's like Army-Navy going on at Camp Randall, 4 o'clock Eastern on Fox, Wisconsin and Iowa. We're showing 10. DraftKings has 10. There are 9 and 9.5s out there. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I think you're going to have some sharp bettors take the 10 just because, hey, the total's so low in this game. There's got to be some value in taking 10, right? Well, not if Iowa can't score more than 3 or 6, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case here. Hawkeyes might be the worst 5-1 team I've ever seen in college football. And now with Deacon Hill, backup quarterback, who's taken over as a starter. Tim, look at Deacon Hill's numbers the last 2 weeks. My God. This guy hasn't been helped out by his receivers. There have been some drop passes, but he's completing about 35% of his passes
He's
in the last
6 for 21 last week.
And he was,
against Purdue.
11 for 27 the previous week, right?
Yeah.
17 for 48, right, in the last 2 games?
Yep, 17 for 48.
Okay, so that's your quarterback. If you're taking 10 with the Hawkeyes, it makes my skin crawl to lay big numbers. But I talked to one of the sharpest bettors I know this week, and he loved Wisconsin, so I said, hell with it, I'm doing it too. Because Wisconsin probably should win this game like 24-6.
And you're at Matt Youmans 247. You don't tweet as much as I do, but I'll put out the text message. What was I thinking? Wisconsin against Iowa.
I was thinking Iowa sucks. That's what I'm thinking.
All right, one quick one before we hit a break here for me. Duke more than likely will be without their starting quarterback, Riley Leonard, coming back from a high ankle sprain. So it's going to be, in all likelihood, the backup quarterback there. I like the under in this game. This under has moved quite a bit. But Henry Boleyn IV, he will be the starter for the Duke Blue Devils more likely than not. MJ Morris actually put up some good numbers. Ken is certainly more exciting than Brennan Armstrong, but I think Mike Elko and Santucci, the defensive coordinator, are going to make life hell for MJ Morris. I think it's going to be ugly down in Durham. Night game. Give me under in Duke, NC State. Prime time again for the Blue Devils on the ACC network. We go to the Mountain West. More plays. Our best bet recap. Come on back. VSiN College Football Betting Podcast.
This is VSiN's College Football Betting Podcast.
Working our way through the Week 7 card here on the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast. We will have a best bet recap coming up in just a little bit, but some more games to get to, including the Hawaii game as they are on network television. All right. Yeah. How about that? No pay-per-view this week, baby. It's on CBS Sports Network. We will get to the Rainbow Warriors hosting San Diego State in just a little bit. But real quickly, one Big Ten play for me. Anyone want to bet an 0-6 ATS team? I do. Yeah, I'm going to be on Illinois this week. I think this is a really tricky spot for the Terps of Maryland. If you go over, as you alluded to last week, our betting splits page over at VSiN.com, very popular.
It is.
A lot of people like looking at those betting splits. And sometimes, it is worth noting, more bets come in on Saturday for the college games and Sunday for the NFL game. But 88% of the bets on Maryland. Maryland looked good. They're very good. Well, why hasn't this number crept up at all? That makes me ponder a little bit. I think Maryland, this is just a tricky spot. I know that stadium. I know that fan base. It's going to be a sleepy atmosphere, 3:30 on NBC. I like this Maryland team. I like Mike Locksley, but we've talked about letdown spots. Letdown spots, Matt, aren't always after wins. They could be after losses as well. And, I mean, look at that just terribleness there from Brett Bielema's squad. And, this might be the game where you want to follow me on Twitter. This might be the one where I hate myself the most. But I'm going to split my unit. I'm going to do a first half +8, full game +14 with the Illini here against the Terps. Bye week ahead, just lost to Ohio State, sleepy environment. I'll take the Illini here in what will no doubt be a desperate spot for the Illini. So I'll take the 8 and I'll take the 14. I'll split my unit on the Illini against Maryland. Matt, let's get to a conference that you and I love to watch in hoops and also like to watch in college football, the Mountain West. And last weekend, Colorado State led 17-0 against Utah State. And what I deem my win total bowl, because I have an under on Utah State, I have an over on Colorado State, and at 17-0, Matt, I felt lovely. I'm like, yes, exactly what I was hoping for. Wait, they lost 44-24? How did that happen? Well, Colorado State's back at it this weekend. They are hosting Boise State. They are catching 7.5 in this spot, Matt. Who do you like in Fort Collins, 9:45 Eastern on FS1?
Yeah, I think the first question you have to ask is how the hell did Colorado State get outscored 44-7 in that game after taking the lead?
I would like to know that answer. That would be nice.
I'm going to play the Rams here. Ugly home dog, catching 7.5. I just think this Boise team's a little bit overrated, too. Going on the road, laying this type of numbers, not easy to do in the Mountain West. And if you've watched Colorado State, I think the Rams have shown they're capable of playing really good football at times. They've been so inconsistent. That bothers me. But they played a great second half at Middle Tennessee. They played a great first 3.5 quarters at Colorado. This team's capable of it. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Colorado State wins this game straight up. This is not a very good Boise State defense either.
Colorado State, 2-3 now on the year, but certainly has a lot of talent, especially on the offensive side. Braden Fowler, Nicolosi, taken over for Clay Millen, has played really well. I've been surprised how they just can't run the ball, but Torrey Horton and Dallin Holker have been very impressive there for the Rams. And lastly, on Boise State, who I actually picked to win this conference and still technically could. They haven't lost a conference game yet. They're 2-0 in conference play. Boy, have I been unimpressed by this Boise State team so far. Had a comeback, scratch and crawl against a San Jose State team that has really not been very good. I think they were down 27. I don't know if they were down 27-0, but it was not pretty there. It was 27-7 late in the first half against San Jose State at home. They ultimately did win that game. So this Boise State team certainly has some issues in the quarterback play. They're doing the whole 2-quarterback system, man. Yeah, it's not working out all that well. Staying in the Mountain West, how about Wyoming last week? Impressive performance against Fresno State. But yet again for Wyoming, Matt, scoreless in the second half. That's become a little bit of a theme with this Wyoming team. They've had some fortunate bounces go their way. They won a game blocking a field goal against Appalachian State. And now they have to go to Air Force after an emotional victory against Fresno State. I believe they stormed the field there up in Laramie now for the second time this year. And you look at this point spread and you say, how in the world is Wyoming 5-1? Their only loss is to Texas when they were tied 10-10. How could they be catching 10.5? Give me the pokes. Be careful. I do like Air Force. I'm not going to lay the 10.5 or 10. I'm going to find a dance partner for a money line parlay. I have paired them up with James Madison. James Madison at home coming off a bye week against Georgia Southern. They're up to a 6-point favorite. You put those two money lines together, it's around minus 120. But I would say, Air Force is in that minus $3 range on the money line. If you want to find someone else that you like, preferably a home team that you put in that money line parlay. But I'm going to roll Air Force and James Madison. But I really like this spot, Matt, for Air Force against Wyoming. They have exceeded my expectations. Only slight worry here for Air Force, in addition just the number being high. Navy's on deck, the first leg of the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. All right, it wouldn't be a VSiN college football betting podcast with Matt Youmans if we didn't touch on the Hawaii game.
Got to.
11 p.m. Eastern, CBS Sports Network. San Diego State headed out to the island to take on Hawaii. And this number, you can get a 6.5 at South Point if you like the dog. The 6 is pretty much across the board, Matt. How does late Saturday night unfold on the island?
There's a couple 6.5s out there. I'm going to try to get 7. I might even buy this to 7 if I have to. But, I've been watching San Diego State football closely for 20-plus years, and this Aztecs team is one of the worst I've seen in those 20 years. And, we just talked about how we're not that impressed by Boise. Aztecs got beat at home by Boise a couple weeks ago. They were down 10 late in that game, got a backdoor score to cover the number. The problem here is San Diego State needs to recruit a quarterback. They got a converted safety, a left-handed quarterback who's not an accurate thrower. They don't have the stud running back they've had in the past. The defense has declined from San Diego State standards in recent years. Okay, on the flip side, can you find enough reasons to take Hawaii? I think I can. If you throw out the first 2 games of the Timmy Ching era last year when Hawaii looked like just a totally disorganized football team, the Warriors were 4-0 ATS and 2-2 straight up as Honolulu home dogs. The previous year, they were 4-0 ATS as Honolulu home dogs. That's 8 of the last 10 they've covered. If you throw out the first 2 last year, that's 8 straight Honolulu covers as home dogs. I actually don't like this Hawaii team that much, even though Braden Shager, the quarterback, I think has improved. He's got a couple wideouts that can make some plays. They're not running the ball very effectively. Timmy Chang seems like a really good guy. He's got a long way to go to become a really good coach, and I don't think his coordinators are that strong. This Hawaii team's just not that well coached. They don't play with great enthusiasm. But I think in this spot on Saturday night at home, this is where Hawaii is at its best. And I just mentioned it. 8 covers in the last 10 spots as a home dog in Honolulu in this spot. I'll take the points. I may have to buy the 7. I hate taking 6.5, Tim. It's probably going to be a 1-score game. I like the dog.
All right, Matt, final minute here of the podcast. Let's run through your best bets here on our best bet recap.
All right, Pittsburgh +8, Purdue +19.5, Colorado State +7.5, Washington, I laid 2.5. I think 3 is the number out there now. Wisconsin -9.5. I'm going to play Notre Dame on a cheap money line price, and I think -135, 140 is the best you can find in the market. And Hawaii +6.5 or 7. So those are my 7 best bets.
All right, there you go. Youmans 7 plays. I will run through my best bet recap here. Common play with me and Matt. We're going to take Pittsburgh +8 and the letdown spot for the Louisville Cardinals. Remember, on the CW, you might be able to catch some nice drama, after the game, too. That game's 6:30 Eastern. We're going to go under in Corvallis, Oregon State and UCLA, under the 54. NC State Duke, we're going to go under 45.5 there in Durham. Hopefully Mike Elko's squad stifles MJ Morris. We're going to buy low on Miami, +4. We're going to split a unit on Illinois. We're going to take +8 first half at Maryland, +14 full game. And I am finding a dance partner with Air Force on the money line. They're around -360, -370. So if you can find someone low -200s, I used James Madison at home against Georgia Southern as a -120 money line parlay. That is Matt Youmans, at Matt Youmans 247. I am Tim Murray. You can find me there at 1 Tim Murray. This has been the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast.